Welcome back. Federal workers receiving another email asking what they accomplished last week, which could reportedly become a new weekly requirement. This, as my sources tell me, that the Federal Reserve is not on board with the Department of Government Efficiency's proposed cuts. My sources also say Chairman Jay Powell has yet to name a vice chairman of bank supervision because he wants to absorb the role himself and keep a committee in place for overseeing the banks. But Michael Barr's role was significant, and it had caused the banks lots of upset because of new capital requirements. Joining me now is New York Congressman and House Financial Services Committee member Mike Lawler. Congressman, it's good to see you.
You as well, Maria.
What do you know about the Federal Reserve? I want to start here, given your role on financial services, because what I'm hearing is that Jay Powell is appealing to the administration, saying, look, we're not going to name someone like a Mickey Bowman. Leave it be. I will handle this in a de facto role, absorbing this role into my role as chairman of the Federal Reserve. And we also have a committee in place. I'll join the committee. No replacement for Michael Barr. Doesn't that keep the status quo with all the rules and regulations strangling the banks?
No question. I think that would be about the worst idea that could happen. There needs to be a little bit more oversight here, and certainly new voices sitting at the table here. The fact is that Chairman Powell misread the economy. He misread inflation. He was late to respond, jacked up rates, causing mortgage interest rates, among others, to reach 30-year highs. He has been a disaster for the economy. And so that's about the worst thing that could happen. And by the way, if ever an agency or authority needed a forensic audit, it's the Federal Reserve. And certainly, I think there needs to be a complete overhaul.
Well, I mean, specifically speaking to the supervision role, the supervisory role overseeing the banks. Congressman, it's really what I'm getting at. Not necessarily that he's not on board on the cuts out of DOGE, that's right. But really, not naming a replacement for Michael Barr seems quite significant to me.
Well, look, Michael Barr was the one that was pushing for the Basel III endgame, and that would have been disastrous for our banks. It would have been disastrous for the economy and our capital markets. So they certainly need a new appointment there. I don't think Jay Powell should take on that responsibility himself. I think they need somebody who has a greater understanding, frankly, of the need to open up our capital markets and is more in line with where the current administration is with respect to getting, resources into the hands of small business. And that requires, our banks to be able to release the flow of capital. And obviously here, I think Chairman Powell, was allowing Michael Barr way too much authority in that role and pushing us towards the Basel III endgame, which, just as I said, would have been a disaster.
All right, final question on this, which is what leads me to Michelle Bowman. Mickey Bowman is the woman who a lot of people think should get that role. She's on the board of the Fed, and her former job was she's the former state bank commissioner of Kansas. Would you support Mickey Bowman getting this role?
Yes, I think she would be great in that role. Look, there's obviously a lot of folks that can be considered. We have certainly a lot of professionals here in New York. But I think ultimately we need a different direction at the Fed. And Chairman Powell, in my opinion, has long outlived his usefulness in his capacity.
Of course, we know that his term is not up until 2026, but I just wanted to get you on the record in terms of this bank supervisory role, because it's important for a major part of our economy. So we'll be watching that, and we have a call out to Jay Powell right now to see if, in fact, he's planning on replacing Michael Barr, or if he wants to just absorb it. I'm told that he's told administration officials that he's ready to absorb it. But let me get on to the other issues of the day, Congressman. President Zelenskyy says he's now ready to sign the rare earth minerals deal, okay, after that blowout in the Oval Office last week with President Trump. But Trump says Zelenskyy will be welcomed back to the White House when he's ready for peace. And Scott Bessent said the deal's off the table right now. Zelenskyy spent the weekend shoring up support from Europe and European leaders. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says of now that deal is no longer on the table. But Trump is not the first president to clash with Zelenskyy, you know. Back in 2022, then President Biden also reportedly lost it. He lost his temper during a phone call after the Ukrainian president was not showing gratitude for U.S. aid, Congressman. Your reaction to all that's gone down here?
Well, look, this was a big missed opportunity in the Oval Office last week. Obviously, the agreement is in both of our interests. When this war is over, Ukraine is going to need significant investment to help rebuild, much like the Marshall Plan post, World War II in Europe, and that's critical. But it is to our benefit, obviously, to get off of the reliance on Chinese control of rare earth minerals, building these economic relationships, not just in Europe, but in Northern Africa and other parts of the globe. And so getting this deal back on track, I think, is critical. President Zelenskyy needs to understand what President Trump is trying to do is not only end this war, but put Ukraine in the strongest possible footing coming out of it. And the only way to get there is with an economic deal, which, by the way, will bring security considerations once it is in effect, because you're going to have American investment on the ground. You're going to have American personnel on the ground. Vladimir Putin will think twice about invading Ukraine again, knowing full well the consequence if American lives are at stake.
Right.
And so, this is a little bit of chicken or the egg, but the bottom line is President Trump has laid out an agreement economically that is to Ukraine's benefit as well as ours and Europe, and ultimately bring this to a situation where they can negotiate a peaceful end to this war. The longer this drags on, the more precarious a place that Ukraine is going to be in. And I'm somebody who has been a strong supporter of Ukraine. I continue to support Ukraine because the consequences of failure here will be devastating for Eastern Europe. It's not just Ukraine that will fall. There will be other former Soviet satellite states that will be in jeopardy if Putin is successful here. And so it is critically important that we bring this conflict to a close. That is what President Trump is trying to do. And what happened in the Oval Office the other day certainly was not to anyone's benefit except Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, well, look, I think at this point we're going to have to hear something from Zelenskyy in order to get back into President Trump's good graces. And we'll see if that happens in the next 24 hours. But, of course, we know the big event of the week, Congressman, is tomorrow night. President Trump will address a joint session of Congress at 9 p.m. Eastern Tuesday night. Democrats are reportedly bringing the whole resist to the Capitol. They claim they're going to bring guests who have been harmed by the Trump administration's early actions, quote unquote, or will be hurt by the House Republican budget. Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin will deliver the official rebuttal from the Democrats. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries claims she will explain how Democrats are fighting to protect Social Security and Medicaid, and the Republicans are fighting to lower taxes for Elon Musk and other billionaires. You've been pushing back on the Democrats' narrative about the budget. Give us your take.
Well, this is typical of the Democrats. They just lie and make things up. I've been very clear. I will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. The fact is that these programs are vital to folks all across our country, and they've paid into them. But we have a $7 trillion budget, $36 trillion in debt. We have to rein in the size and scope of the federal government, and that's what we are working towards, in addition to providing middle-class tax relief. That's why I've been fighting so hard to lift the cap on salt, as well as securing our border, strengthening our military, and increasing domestic production of energy. That's what this legislation is all about, and Democrats seem to be opposed to providing that critical tax relief, because if, by the way, the tax bill fails, we will have the largest tax increase in American history. Right. And if they want to vote for that, shame on them. So
real quick, Congressman, I mean, right now the SALT cap is $10,000. You know you're not going to get $100,000. What's the number that you've been guided toward?
Look, we are in the process, Maria, of negotiating this. We have asked Ways and Means for specific cost estimates as well as percentage of constituents that are covered, taxpayers that are covered within certain numbers. So we are working through it. One thing I can tell you, it won't be 10,000. And it will provide significant tax relief to middle-class families all across this country.
Congressman, final question here. Lawmakers, I'm told, my sources are telling me, lawmakers are planning to send a letter to Chair Powell today that the Fed needs to pick a bar replacement. Are you on that letter?
I will be, yes.
Thank you, Congressman. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Mike Lawler in New York. We'll be right back.